Morning. Thank you for your presence and welcome to the Florida Supreme Court. I apologize for the weather outside. I don't understand it because I know that I issued an administrative order prohibiting bad weather, but somehow it's here. I am here today to talk about a subject that is very dear to me and to the justices of the Florida Supreme Court. Very dear to the Florida Bar and Bar President Greg Coleman, who is here. Very dear to Bar President-elect Ray Aberdeen, who is here. Very dear to the Florida Bar Foundation, and a subject that is very dear to a great number of people throughout the state of Florida who are deeply concerned about it. I am talking about the issue of access to our courts, access to civil justice. Access to civil justice for lower-income citizens in Florida's middle class has become a critical challenge for the legal system, especially in difficult economic times. Simply put, those who can afford it will have access to civil justice. Those who cannot afford it will not. Although the economy is improving, the national recession had a significant impact on the financial ability of a great number of citizens to retain legal representation in civil cases. We are particularly concerned about the circumstances facing many of our lower income and middle-class citizens for whom purchasing legal representation poses a significant, if not impossible, challenge. The financial resources that once funded programs that provided legal assistance to the needy in civil cases have been drastically reduced. For example, federal funding for the Legal Services Corporation declined by about 17% from 2010 to 2012. The Florida Interest on Trust Accounts, IOTA as we call it, which was used to support legal services for the poor, has been severely reduced as a direct result of historic low interest rates. The situation has reached a crisis point. Only 20% of indigent persons are able to receive legal counsel in civil cases. Moreover, many working-class Floridians find themselves in the predicament of earning too much to qualify for legal aid, but not enough to afford to hire a lawyer. I'm talking about hardworking Floridians trying to raise a family on a salary of $50,000 or so. These are your school teachers, firefighters, police officers, plumbers, the list goes on and on. Indeed, the number of self-represented litigants has increased over the past decades. For instance, the majority of family law-related matters in most states now include at least one unrepresented party. How many of these folks give up precious rights that they may have because they simply cannot afford to hire a lawyer? The problem of access to civil justice is not just a matter for the very poor who obviously need it. It is also a problem for Florida's hardworking middle class. In an effort to address this crisis, about 30 states have established access to civil justice commissions. These commissions were created for the general purpose of identifying barriers to civil justice and to make recommendations on workable possible solutions. In partnership with the Florida Bar and the Florida Bar Foundation, I will proudly sign today an administrative order establishing Florida's Commission on Access to Civil Justice, and Florida today will join over 30 other states who have such commissions. In doing so, we want to build on the great work that others started here in Florida and have been working to implement with very limited resources throughout the years. We are not by far the first to talk about doing something about access to civil justice. There have been many caring Floridians who have dedicated their careers to this issue. Thanks to their efforts, we made great strides in providing forums in family court matters to assist people who cannot afford to retain counsel. Our legal aid societies, despite resources stretched to the limit, have been there all along, representing people who otherwise would not have access to our civil court system. And let's not forget the members of the Florida Bar who have donated thousands upon thousands of pro bono hours to the needy throughout the years. We must, however, now take it to the next level, bearing in mind that the question of access to our civil justice system is a societal question, and as such, the solution rests with all segments of society. As the list of the initial membership will show, Florida's Commission on Access to Civil Justice, established here today, will bring together the three branches of government. Yes, it can be done. The bar will bring together civil legal aid providers, the business community, they have a stake in this as well, and other well-known stakeholders in a coordinated effort to identify and remove these economic barriers to civil justice. This is the right thing to do. This is the right thing to do in Florida. For what is the use of having a great civil justice system if a large segment of our population do not have access to it? I thank you for coming.
Thank you, Chief Justice Labarga. My name is Greg Coleman. I'm president of the Florida Bar, and I am so excited to be here for this momentous occasion. I'd like to thank the Chief Justice and the rest of the court. It's been a pleasure to work with you on this commission, and I appreciate your commitment and enthusiasm very, very much. We're here today to take this effort to strive for equal access to and availability of legal services for Floridians to the next level. The Florida Bar wants to emphasize that access to civil justice is a societal problem, one that cannot be cured or solved by the legal profession alone. Florida's legal profession is very concerned about access and very concerned about funding for legal aid services, which, as you know, has declined to historic lows. But even at the height of funding, 80% of those qualified for legal aid did not obtain legal aid or were turned away. And please understand that lawyers are doing their part. Lawyers contributed 1.7 million hours of pro bono attorney time last year. If you use a $250 hourly rate, that equates to $425 million of lawyer-devoted time pro bono. That's almost $500 million with a B dollars. And by the way, they contributed another $5 million on top of that. And although the number of pro bono service and hours seems to increase year over year, as do the monetary contributions, there's still a gap that remains, a significant legal services gap. There's also a huge segment of our society, as Chief Justice Labarga mentioned, who make too much money to qualify for legal aid, but not enough to hire a lawyer. These are the working middle class, the person that fixes your air conditioning, the person that comes and fixes your plumbing. They're the standard family of four, a mom and a dad, or two parents with two kids, living paycheck to paycheck. And they simply can't access the courts with lawyers if they get divorced, and they don't qualify for legal aid. So what do? They wander around a court system, they represent themselves. The system is not designed for these pro se individuals, which in turn creates depression, stress, anxiety, not only for the pro se litigant, but for the system as a whole. Judges are frustrated, the litigants are frustrated, clerks are frustrated, everybody's frustrated. And I come back to the fact that this is a problem that is too big for lawyers alone to solve. It's a problem that society has to embrace and fix. As my good friend and past president of the Florida Bar, Gene Pettis, said, and by the way, he's one of the ones that was involved in the genesis of this, you don't look to the grocery stores to solve world hunger. Conversely, you cannot look to the legal profession alone to solve this societal problem. Here's the good news. I am absolutely convinced that over the next couple of years, under the leadership of Chief Justice Labarga and the court, that we are going to see a significant shift in the state of Florida as it pertains to access to justice. Today's signing by Chief Justice Labarga of a Supreme Court order creating Florida's first Supreme Court Access to Civil Justice Commission will be the impetus for this shift. There are access commissions all over the country, but ours is unique. Why? 30% of this commission is going to be very high-profile business leaders. You will see their names when the AO is released. But a few examples. Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of Cheney Brothers, which is one of the largest food distributorships in the country, certainly the largest in Florida next to the big public companies. Senior Vice President and General Counsel of Publix. Senior Vice President and General Counsel of Disney, and other significant business leaders. And these business leaders are problem solvers. They're going to help us think outside the box. And those of you that know me, I love to use this analogy. Lawyers think like this. Ready? Aim, 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 aim. We never fire because we're wired in such a way that we want a perfect shot. Business leaders say ready, fire, aim. If the bullet's going in the wrong direction, they adjust the path. If the bullet's going in the completely wrong direction, they fire another bullet. If they achieve a success level of 66%, they're ecstatic. If we achieve a success level of 98%, we're disappointed. So this group, this stellar group of business leaders will convene to immediately begin to introduce access programs around the state. Now, how are we going to do this? Believe it or not, there is no inventory or repository of access programs in this country. The ABA doesn't have one, other states don't have one, the localities don't have one, the state bars don't have one, and there are some really good access programs that don't require state funding. They require creative ways to fund them. So we, the Florida Bar, in conjunction with the Commission, are creating this inventory, like an a la carte menu. And we are going to immediately start utilizing these programs and implementing them statewide and thinking outside the box. This commission is not a group that's going to draft a report or come up with a study. We want action, and that is the Chief Justice's directive. So we're going to start with baby steps, of course, and I believe these baby steps will turn into full-length strides over the next 2 years. The commission, of course, will be charged with the second thing, which is to create a permanent commission and recommend the makeup for that commission moving forward. So when all is said and done, I am absolutely convinced that Chief Justice Labarga's legacy will be the accomplishments of this group. I'm very proud to be a member of this commission with my President-elect Ray Abedin, and of course with Judge Thomspon and the rest of the foundation, as well as the rest of the commission members. And if anyone has questions after the signing, we'll be happy to entertain them. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chief Justice. My name is Emerson Thomspon, and I am the president of the Florida Bar Foundation. The Florida Bar Foundation distributes monies to the legal services organizations, all 30 of them throughout the state, and that's why we are here. It is an honor to be here today with Chief Justice Labarga and Florida Bar President Greg Coleman. Their combined leadership has brought us together this day to announce the formation of this commission. The Florida Bar Foundation knows the Florida Commission on Access to Justice is a game changer for the state of Florida. We are grateful to these two great leaders who have mandated this commission as a top priority of their tenure. I believe that they will be remembered by generations of Floridians for the creation of this commission, remembered for the lives it will change and for the lives it will save. Some of you may be asking, how can the Florida Commission on Access to Justice, Civil Justice, make a difference to the citizens of the state of Florida? If there are any doubters, I ask you to look at what has been accomplished in states with active access to justice commissions. They have advocated for greater resources for civil legal aid, developed initiatives to help moderate income as well as low-income residents with legal needs, increased awareness of the economic benefits of expanding access to justice, and improved technologies for online intake, triage, and referral of civil legal aid clients and self-represented litigants. President Coleman mentioned developing an inventory of access to justice initiatives. For just a few moments, allow me to review some of the developments that have been achieved because of Access to Justice Commission's leadership around the country. A number of projects have increased funding for civil legal aid. Among them, in Montana, the Supreme Court recently issued an order amending Rule 23 of the Montana Rules of Civil Procedure to provide that at least 50% of residual funds in a class action case be distributed to support activities and programs that promote access to Montana civil justice system. The rule change was proposed by the court's Access to Justice Commission. Other projects have helped align the legal needs of low and moderate income consumers with the services offered by members of the private bar, whether paid or pro bono. In Colorado, a referral program was developed for low and middle income Coloradans who not qualified for legal aid, continued legal education programs, and a guidebook. Business planning represented the moderate income client were developed to empower Colorado to create financially viable practices representing clients of moderate income. Commissions also have helped document the effects of lack of access to justice and provided analyses that make the business case for fully funding civil legal aid. In 2012, the California Commission on Access to Justice, the California Chamber of Commerce, and the State Bar of California sponsored a series of 4 hearings across the state on the effects of chronic underfunding of the courts and the legal assistance programs. Advancing technology in legal services has been another hallmark of Access to Justice Commissions. For example, New Mexico developed a web-based diagnostic tool to assess factors that might help or hinder a particular individual in self-representation. Now, this is a first step in developing a comprehensive online intake and triage system to help determine who is capable of effective self-representation and who is in need of professional advice or representation. Taken separately, such advances might seem like small or baby steps, but taken together, they have the power to transform the whole legal services delivery system in our state. Through a dedicated commission, equitable legal services delivery can happen here in Florida. The members of this commission will lead this effort. Its work groups will develop deliverables, and together we will move Florida toward a vision of equal access to justice for all Floridians. Now let me just take a moment of personal privilege to explain why I am so interested in this. You've heard the Chief Justice Labarga explain his commitment to access to justice. It is not a superficial commitment. It is not a dilettantish approach to legal services. It is part of his legal DNA, as it is with President Greg Coleman. The same applies to me. Now, I was born and raised in North Florida during an era of rampant segregation when it was dangerous for a person of color. Many of us believed that the institutions of power were not used to enforce the laws, but to stifle fair access to justice. Yet, if you learn about the federal court and some state judges during this time, in recordings such as Peter Irons' May It Please the Court, or in such books as Unlikely Heroes by Jack Bass, or before his time, The Untold Story of Harriet T. Moore, America's first civil rights martyr by FSU Professor Ben Green, you will recognize that courts are designed to protect the lives and rights of residents and citizens of the state of Florida. Why? Because people like you and me had access to the courts, and it should not be denied to others. If we fail to provide for people to resolve their disputes fairly and equally before the courts of law, we deprive them of a basic right We've deprived them of hope. We deprive them of dignity. We leave them with hopelessness and despair. That we cannot do, and that we will not do. So the Florida Bar Foundation, along with its executive director, Bruce Blackwell, who is here with us, again, on behalf of our organization, the members of the Florida Bar Foundation and staff, we thank the Chief Justice Labarga and President Coleman for their leadership and their commitment to access to civil justice.
I'm going to sign the administrative order at this time, but before I do want to take the opportunity to thank the 27 folks who have agreed to participate in this commission. It will be a commission that will meet every quarterly and will hopefully come up with solutions to this issue. Present here today as part of the commission will be President-elect Ray Aberdeen. If you'll come up, please. In any other members of the commission, I know it's raining and hard to get here today in Tallahassee, but we have pretty much the folks who kind of just worked this up and here present with us. And we now have a commission in Florida looking like